Bonjour, George. Thanks for having me today. Well, okay, I work from my recording studio since, well, about 10 years, but I've been sound engineering and voice talent, well, a few decades now. I spent a lot of time, tweaking my sound, my voice, typical voice, with the different gigs and equipments, many microphones, many stuff.
So you have a lot
And
of
now I'm happy with my
engineering,
stuff.
you have a lot of engineering background. As I like to say, you know what it is supposed to sound like,
Yes,
which is
and
important.
sometimes I don't need to put headphones on my
Yeah.
head. I just talk and I do things, and I know, since I spend every week since many years now with my voice, so I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
quite used to it.
Yeah.
And in this particular environment, which I could show you, it's behind me, but it's a sound acoustician, a renowned one here in Quebec, in Canada, that designed my studio, and it sounds very good. It's not boomy, it's lively, and
Big.
I think it's quite good.
It's a big space. It's a big room. A lot of people are in a little
Yes,
enclosed, compact booth. And when you have that much space around you, it really helps the sound open up and sound more natural.
yes. So I know you're a technician as well, and you understand what I like. I like live sound, but I'm looking to have, of course, a portable booth, and I would like to travel and be anywhere. And as Rick and many others, I know I do not expect to be the same as what I have here,
Mhm.
because this is very particular with, some acoustic sounds here and there. And now I'll have a blanket just around me.
And then you're
So
using a sphere mic. Is that what that is in the background?
yeah, well, yeah, I have three microphones I use, two main ones. Yeah, a Sphere one and my TLM 170, which you told me that it wasn't very popular in the USA.
But it's a really good mic, though.
Oh yeah, it sounds great. I love
Yeah.
that for commercials.
Mhm.
And I'm the official voice of a network here in Canada, the largest one in French. And I use the Sphere
Mhm.
especially for that.
Is there a specific mic model you're using because they're looking for a particular sound?
Well, yeah, I did spend many hours to try to
Oh,
find,
yeah.
so many patterns. But
Yeah.
finally, well, I don't remember which one I used. It's a combination of two.
Oh, okay, got you. Talk
But
about infinite iterations. You can go way, way, way down a long path
oh
exploring
yeah,
mic models,
yeah.
mic combinations, patterns, etc. I've set up many Apollos and Sphere setups for folks remotely.
Oh, you did that? Okay.
Yeah, I even
So
have a client who takes his Sphere and his tri-booth with him. And so we can get the same, as close to the sound he gets at home on his U67.
so with the Sphere is, I am I understanding that it allows to me a little bit closer than the how it sounds home because of the flexibility of that mic.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of the Sphere microphone is the ability to adjust the proximity effect, right?
Yeah.
The fine tune the pickup pattern, where the mic you might like, let's say, for example, a U87, its default pickup pattern is a very wide cardioid pattern, or it's a figure eight, and there's nothing in between, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
once you load a U87 model into the Sphere plugin, now you can make a hypercardioid, or you can fine tune it to work perfectly for your voice and your environment that you couldn't
Okay.
normally do, right? When we designed the tri-booth, Rick isn't so technical. He doesn't necessarily want to have that much equipment to take with him. So he keeps it simple, and he's just using a shotgun mic. Sennheiser MKH
416.
416, right? So
Yes.
everything we did was designed around using a hypercardioid or supercardioid shotgun mic, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds amazing with a hypercardioid mic. It really does. It doesn't sound quite as focused and tight sounding with maybe a cardioid mic. So I find that when there is ability to adjust a pattern, I will usually tighten the pattern. So it's more
Yes. Of
hypercardioid,
course.
less
Yes.
cardioid, right?
Yes.
The other thing to always consider with the tri-booth is while it feels like it's a small space because it's only a triangle 3x3, you're really actually taking a small space inside and you're actually coupling it with a larger space, right? While you're inside a smaller space, you're just surrounded by a membrane, and that's the sound blankets, right? And so that membrane allows a large percentage of the sound is actually passing through it, right? It's not stopping it, it's passing through it.
And
It's acting
it
like
would
a
be much
filter.
boomier.
Right. It's acting like a filter of sorts, right? So the
Yes.
sound passes through, then it passes into the room around you. So it's going to depend on the size of that room. If you're in a typical hotel room or a bedroom or an office, that's good. You're going to have that space around you. Then the lower frequency sound that would normally be trapped in a chamber, like a whisper room or a small booth, doesn't happen. You don't get the chamber or box effect because the sound can pass out into the room. Then
Yeah.
whatever is left behind, that after it reverberates and diffuses, then it passes back through the membrane again, the blankets, and that is the remaining sound that reaches the microphone, right? So it does a very good job of diminishing that reverb and getting rid of it. It's really effective. If the room is very reverberant, like extremely minimal, as some hotels can be, like no carpeting, things like that, there may still be enough reverb that it can make it back into the microphone. And so you may still have a little bit of a reverb tail. And it depends on how loudly you're projecting as well.
Yeah,
Got
I'm
more
not
energy,
someone.
the more reverb. The less
I've
energy,
got
the
that.
less reverb, right?
Yeah.
So it's all a system. And that's why when you get a tri-booth, part of it is getting my time as well. So when you get the tri-booth, we can do a session together where I will listen to, and I always recommend people send me their home studio audio too. So a sample
Yeah.
of what you're doing at home, and then we
Yes.
can do a session together. And because I know your sphere mic, I know how to use the sphere and I know how to use all that stuff, I can help you tweak things to try to make it sound similar to the way it would sound at home. We may not get it perfect, but you'd be surprised. I have so many clients that go on the road with tri-booths and they have to do pickups or they have to do jobs that they do all the time from home.
Yeah.
And they're able to do it with very little issue. I mean, they're able to pick up and work on a job and without complaint from the client typically. So it's surprisingly effective.
Okay. Very well. Well, when we work remotely, we have different kind of clients with different backgrounds and knowledge about the sound of quality.
Yes.
But I'm always aiming for, the best high-end tech,
That's
I
right.
just want to please, the biggest studios.
It's really important to know what you're missing because your clients aren't going to tell you. And if they do, they don't know what they're talking about a lot of time. They don't know how to articulate it.
Yes. Okay, man. Well, thanks for that information. So I was thinking, I'm kind of reassured that you know well the sphere, because that's for sure I'm going to bring that one because that's a regular thing. I have a few sessions during the week with the network.
I know
TV
it's
network.
kind of a big, bulky mic to bring around, but
Sure.
when you're really trying to get a really consistent, I mean, obviously, if you're going to take something as big as a tri-booth with you when you travel, you're already making a commitment. You're like saying, I want to bring this thing. It's a suitcase. And so bringing in a microphone that's sizable isn't that much of a stretch, right? Because you're, okay, well, I'm bringing my tri-booth. I might as well bring the best mic, and obviously the most flexible microphone so I can get the sounds that I want. It's a good combination, it's a sensible combination. And actually, Universal came out with a smaller sphere. I think it's called the DX or something. It's still a large diaphragm condenser, but it's not quite as chunky. The one you have is the big one. And they make a smaller version that is a bit more travel friendly.
Have you seen the case of it?
Yeah. Exactly.
But, just by the way, I went to some vacation and I traveled in another country, and I did order something. So I was thinking, I don't have for the booth and anything, but I didn't want to miss any important audition. It can happen, and when it goes, you have to do something. I didn't want to record through directly in my iPhone. So I guess this one. I just ordered it and I received it after, and it sounds impressively good for a USB mic.
That was the first USB mic, the original version of that.
Yeah.
That was the first USB microphone where I said somebody got it right. They were the earliest one. And that mic, the original one, has been out over 10 years now. So that one is just the evolved version, but it's so shockingly good
It's
and very clean.
shockingly good.
Yeah,
Yes, I did some comparison with my mic Neumann. It's very similar to Neumann sound, so with less quality and presence, and there's more noise. But for promos or audition, you're gonna sound good.
Right.
Many clients won't notice that it's not a great microphone.
They won't notice because you know how to use it. You know how to use the proper mic technique, placement. You know how to use it. When those mics are used improperly, they don't sound good. Obviously, they're super plosive sensitive.
Yes, that's why now I'm going to use this, But this is from
when that mic came out, the original version, it was so popular that my friends and I invented a pop screen for it, and that's this one right here.
Oh, really?
So the original version of this pop screen has a slot. You'll see this little slot because on the original mic, it had a little light in the center that was telling you the level. It was red. It was green, yellow, red. And so we had a little window made so you could see the light. Well, of course, the microphone design changed over the years. So this doesn't really, it still will work, but it's still not ideal. But that's why we invented this little pop screen microphone, So I still have it. And I put it on here because it's small.
Yeah, I tried it here with this one, but it's too sensitive. That's why I'm going to use a big one. Yeah. But this is for really not planning to go, iPhone and this. I'm thinking I'm okay for.
That's what we call like your road warrior, like your road warrior kit, like your ultralight kit. The ultralight
all the time. It's always there.
It's always there. It's always there.
That's it. Yeah. But now I'm looking to be somewhere else for many weeks, maybe months, in the next few years. And I think it's the right product. It's different. The size is different. The shape of it, of course, because some of them goes until the bottom. And why you didn't go till the bottom? As we both know that the sound travel through the air.
So the reason we didn't have the blanket go to the bottom was a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, remember the whole goal of the design was to be travelable and fit in a regular suitcase and not have overage fees, right?
Yeah.
The suitcase itself is 6 or 7 pounds, right? Like 2-3 kilos, right? Then you have the weight of the booth. And when you add those together, very quickly you hit the magic 50 pounds limit, or 23 kilos?
Yeah.
Whatever the international baggage size is, right?
Yes.
So that's always from the very beginning of the product was our restriction. Like we cannot go heavier, right? So then we looked at materials that we could use and how we could use them to get the most effective performance out of the material. And we found with experimenting that if we just hung the blanket all the way from top to bottom to the floor, it worked okay, right? But I showed Rick that if we added a second layer of the material, so we were doubling it at the height of the microphone, so up near where the mic is, we would get a much better performance. And we did, right? But then if you added more blanket material, it got too heavy.
More weight.
It got bulky, right? And then we also experimented with the cap, right? So the cap looks like it's just one layer of blanket, but it actually has a second layer of blanket sewn into it. So it's 2 layers on the cap.
Okay.
So the bottom line is, while it looks very simple and basic, there's a lot of design and thought that went into it to try to maximize the amount of reverb reduction that you get.
Yes.
And the way you're going to do that is by having the most absorbing material close to your mic, right? All the material down lower becomes less and less useful. And as you get to the floor, it makes almost zero difference. I mean, there's really no improvement. So we knew that people were going to look at it and go, wait a minute, it doesn't go to the floor. Why would you do that? Well, because we tried everything. This thing spent a year or 2 in development and real world testing. It was a personal endeavor for Rick to make it be the perfect booth for him before it became a product. It was only until somebody else saw it and said, I want to buy it. Then we were like, oh, well, he's like, well, I guess we have to
Yes, I've heard his story with a nice video. Yes,
Yeah,
completely.
all of that was essentially figured out before we even sold one unit. But then we wanted to make sure it was easy to assemble, and that's when we
Yes.
added the
Okay.
elastic to the poles and all this stuff, because it started out as just a bag full of pipe, and we thought, oh, people are going to lose their mind. They're going to be frustrated, when they
Okay.
open the bag
Yes.
at the
Yes.
hotel. So it's much easier to assemble
No, no,
now.
I've seen it, the whole thing. I've many videos. It's because I'm picky. I appreciate that you're taking the time to talk with me about your product. And I have a couple of plugins which you must know, like Clarity.
Yeah, Clarity is a miracle worker.
Yeah.
I did a
So
demo of Clarity with TriBooth at VoiceOver Atlanta last year, 2022. And
yeah,
it was Clarity had just come out. It was brand new, like that week. And we were doing demos of TriBooth in the hall. And of course, the noise level was no good. Like it wasn't a good testing environment, right? Obviously.
okay.
But as soon as I threw the Clarity plugin and cranked it way up, people would put on the headphones and they would just go,
It's
they
amazing.
couldn't believe it.
And there is
Yeah.
of course, the Pro version and the D Verb as well. So,
Yes.
but I think it wouldn't be an issue with the tri-booth, the D Verb. Maybe the noise, reduction.
Clarity D Reverb is excellent. Like I said, if you really have a particularly Spartan room, very echoey and reflective,
Yeah.
that could be a benefit. But another thing I've tried and we've found works extremely well is if, let's say, there is no carpeting, it's just hardwood floor,
Yeah.
then
Yes.
get an extra comforter, blanket, whatever from the hotel or whatever, and put that on the floor. Put the booth right on top of the blanket.
Yes.
And it makes a big difference. It's surprisingly effective.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So,
Okay, if you allow me a few 2 minutes more, it's
sure.
about the microphones. I wouldn't mind to have to maybe to buy the Sennheiser 460. I know it's kind of popular for a few talents
Yeah.
to use that in a small environment, acoustical environment. But because I've never tried that, and I know it doesn't go as low as and I don't really, I'm not sure. I don't have the Riggs voice, for instance, which is louder, a little bit more bass, like other talents I work with sometimes. They have, for those talents who have big voice, loud voice, it sounds great with the Sennheiser.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really in my case. So
the Sennheiser, it has a bit of a roll off at the low end.
Yeah.
But that tends to work in your favor because when you're traveling, all you have is noise at the low end. It's rumble, it's garbage. And you have to filter it all out anyway. You have to use a very aggressive high pass filter, roll off.
From where?
When you're traveling.
Yeah. From 80, 100 hertz or?
It just depends on your voice. So
yes.
So the low, wherever your fundamental resonance is, for men, it will be between 70 and 100 hertz. Somewhere in there is where that's kind of like where the bottom of your voice is. Your natural.
Okay.
So
yes.
You want to set that to be below that, so you don't lose that very bottom of your voice. You want the full range of your voice, right?
Yes.
So you're going to tune that accordingly. Right.
Okay.
If your room is particularly rumbly and noisy, you got a bad hotel, it's right on a busy street, you may end up using even more. You might sacrifice a little of the low end of your voice to get clarity. But because you have the Clarity plugin, you can get away with a lot more noise.
Yes.
You can really get away with a lot. So it's a pretty cool combination.
Okay.
So once you get it, you'll get a link on my website from Rick, and it goes to my page, and you schedule a session with me, and we will have that time to do fine tuning to the mic placement and whatever. If you want to play with some settings and things, you can do that. Yeah, that was the whole, and that was part of our patent. We were actually awarded a U.S. patent for the product, its design. And that is part of the patent, is that it includes the engineering service, right?
That's a
Which
big
makes
thing.
It unique.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's a big plus, definitely.
Yeah, we just wanted, a lot of companies provide great service. We just wanted to, what's the next level? Have an actual engineer tune it with you. I thought that would be the ultimate. So That's part of the thing. I'm happy that we could answer questions, and I appreciate your willingness to appear on camera.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Cool.
Thanks a lot, George.